Side Hustle Show 113, earning $3,000 to $4,000 per month on Kindle in just 6 months as a professional author.
Welcome to the Side Hustle Show, where aspiring part-time entrepreneurs learn how to turn their side hustle dreams into reality. Because your 9 to 5 may make you a living, but your 5 to 9 makes you alive. And now, your host, Nick Loper.
Hey everybody, Nick Loper here. Welcome to the Side Hustle Show. This is episode 113, where you're going to hear from self-publishing pro Lise Cartwright on how she's built up her income from author royalties on Kindle books in a very short period of time and what you can do to replicate her success. Lise is awesome. You're going to love her. All the notes and highlights, along with her top self-publishing tips from the conversation, are available to you in a free downloadable PDF at sidehustlenation.com/113 or through the link in the episode description of your podcast player app. And with that, let's get right into it. So Lise Cartwright is somebody who I originally connected with, I believe, through Pat Flynn's Facebook group, the author Facebook group. And kind of, I don't want to say an overnight success, but you burst onto the scene, and 6 months later, you've got a dozen books, more than a dozen books out, and are doing really well in the Kindle space. So this is always exciting to see the these kind of success stories. So, but my understanding is you got your start as a writer, a freelance writer, and so. Mm-hmm. The Kindle stuff was a logical next step, but let's dive into the freelancing stuff first, because I think that's a great place to start.
Being a full-time freelance writer since June 2012, and I sort of started out on Odesk and Elance, just writing, and I probably should preface that in that, I got all my training, as it were, from Location Rebel. So I joined Location Rebel, learned all about SEO writing, and decided that was the path that I would take. I had no previous experience as a writer. I was working in a not-for-profit organization in an admin role. So writing was something that I did, but it wasn't something that I'd considered ever sort of going down the path of doing.
The Location Rebel is Sean Ogle's site. SeanOgle.com.
SeanOgle.com, that's right. Location 180 is his blog. So I sort of jumped straight into that and had no real direction or thought other than I wanted to get out of the job that I was in at the time. I'd been probably with the company coming up 3 years, and just nothing was happening. It's just the same old, basically. I was 30. Now I'm going to sound old. I was 31 when I started with the company, and so I've been working for a long time and always sort of in admin roles, and just really struggling with thinking, is this all there is? Is this what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life?
Those are some scary questions.
Yeah, and not feeling overly great about the answer I was getting. It just made me feel fairly sick to my stomach. So which is how I kind of found Location Rebel. I joined, I don't know how many newsletters, and I don't even know how I came across Location Rebel. But I just remember seeing a newsletter come through. Sean had just launched Location Rebel, so it was fairly early on. And I joined, and I loved what I found inside. He's got a whole bunch of blueprints that basically step you through a different type of online business. So as soon as I sort of went through the SEO writing, I was like, I'm pretty sure I can do this. And so I just jumped on Odesk. I didn't have any real plan or anything like that, and just started working with clients on there, doing random things like, SEO articles, building mini WordPress sites, which is really nothing to do with SEO writing, but clients were kind of reaching out to me saying, can you do this? And I would pretty much say yes to everything.
Okay.
And then Google it later if I didn't know how to do it.
Well, what's your take on this? Because, Elance Odesk kind of gets a bad rap for being like a race to the bottom on price, and it can be a really competitive marketplace. So how do you kind of get those first bids?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I guess coming onto Odesk, I had no preconceived ideas about it at all. I'd never heard about it until I joined Location Rebel. So I didn't know that it was competitive. I didn't have any of that kind of introduction to it. So
that's probably better.
Yeah, I think it was, because when I did my profile, I made sure that it was optimized for my keywords, so for what I was wanting to be found for. So SEO writing, blog writing, that sort of stuff. So I made sure that all my sort of skills were aligned in that way, and I did all the tests that I possibly could to support that. And then in my sort of overview area, I focused on the client rather than talking about myself. So I focused on what the client would be looking for more so than saying, I've done this, I've done that. And it seems to have made a difference, because sort of 3 months into being on Odesk, I was starting to get invited to jobs. I wasn't necessarily applying for them.
Oh, wow.
And so I think the key for sites like Odesk and Elance is that initially you have to take the low-hanging fruit, because you have no rating on that site. So regardless of the experience that you have outside of a place like that, the client doesn't know you from a bar of soap. So how can they have any idea that you can do what you can do? You have to prove yourself. It's like when you start a new job, you have to go, you've got to go through that process. You start on a lower pay and your pay increases through proving your skills. So it's very similar in that regard, but it's a much quicker path. So I found on Odesk, the first sort of 3 jobs were really like low price, like $5 for a 500-word article type thing. And then I just thought, okay, I've got enough. I've got some ratings on here. How am I going to increase this? How am I going to start earning some actual real money? I can't leave my job earning $5
right.
type thing. So I just started searching for higher paying jobs. So I didn't, in the keyword search, rather than typing in SEO writing, I would type in $500 or I would type in $1,000, and it would bring up all the jobs that were offering $500 or $1,000. And then I filtered by, writing, copywriting, that sort of thing.
This is a good hack. I didn't even know you could do that. So from the contractor side, from the freelancer side, and it's just the regular old search bar, or
regular old search bar. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because I just thought, well, so how do I find these people? And I didn't want to spend hours searching through all the SEO writing stuff. So that's how I did it. I just went, okay, I want to be paid this amount this month, so I want to look for the clients that are paying at least $500. And that's how I started to make some fairly good money on Odesk. So I solely worked on Odesk probably for 10 months and built up my client base. So once that sort of started happening, my aim was to at least replace half of my current income. So that basically to cover my bills, because my fiance at the time, he had a full-time job and he was really happy doing what he was doing. So that's what I did. I 10 months later quit my job because I'd hit the halfway mark in terms of what I was earning full-time, and I had a couple of ongoing clients, and yeah, that's how I started freelance writing full-time.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, to go from having never done this before to I'm quitting my job in 10 months. and like you said, hey, it hadn't replaced my full salary, but it was enough to cover my expenses. And so all of a sudden now the whole world opens up to you, and you free up an extra 40 hours a week to grow the thing.
That's exactly right. Because you do kind of get to a point when you're doing it, when you're working on your side hustle, when you're doing anything on the side, if this is what you want to do, like if you want to get out of your job, if you want to just continue working your job and doing something on the side, then that's perfectly fine. But for me, that whole question, is this all there is, was always running through the back of my mind. And I thought, this seems to be a better way. I'm in control of what I'm earning, not my boss, because I could see how I could increase my earnings. I would just apply for more jobs. That's literally what you would do. So it got to a point where I couldn't, physically do any more work without it encroaching on my full-time job. And I didn't want to burn any bridges or anything like that. So for me, it was the logical decision for me to be able to go, okay, if I'm going to really give this a shot, I need to go all in and go full-time. So that's what I did.
That's cool. Congratulations.
Thanks.
So I don't know too much about the Location Rebel program, but I've read some of Sean's posts, which are excellent, by the way, like very, very detailed case study type of blog posts over there in most cases. But one of the things he's like to follow this formula, right? Like, look, your first step is to freelance, is to sell a service. And then the next step sounds like what you're doing is turning that experience into some sort of product. And you've done that with Kindle books.
Exactly.
I don't know if there's a step 3 or what step 3, world domination.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You got it right there, Nick. There has to be, you get to sort of a point when you're doing a freelancing skill where you're kind of like, okay, what's the scale? Like what's next? Because you can be a freelance writer forever, but you're still trading time for dollars. And while you're not, you don't have a boss over your head, you've still got clients. So for me, I was starting to feel a little uneasy again, where I was just kind of like, is this all there is? I don't know if I want to be just working with clients all the time. I don't know if I want someone saying that they want this now. So there's way more flexibility freelancing, but I wanted to move it up a notch. And so that's when I started looking at some other ways that I could convert the writing skills that I had into something else. And I came across Steve Scott's website, the stevescottsite.com. And I started reading about what he was doing with Kindle books. And I was like, wow, I've never even thought about writing a book, because up until that point, I hadn't really ever downloaded an ebook. I'd always just purchased books off Amazon. I hadn't even thought about the Kindle side of things.
Was any of the writing you were doing, was it like ghost writing for other people? It was all just like kind of blog post stuff? Yeah,
I'd done ghost writing for blogs and stuff like that, but no book writing at all. So I hadn't even sort of really registered that was even an avenue until I found Steve's site.
And this is 2014?
No, this would have been late 2013.
Okay.
So late 2013, I started sort of reading about it and thinking, okay, well, I think this is something that I want to give it a go. So I spent probably a good 6 months just consuming information and learning, and I was just about to kind of step out into it when I came across Chandler and James's course, Self-Publishing School. And it was exactly what I needed because I know, you know a lot of stuff. Like when someone starts asking you questions, you find that you know more than you probably think you do. But for me, I was missing the steps. Like I just wasn't sure what came first or where to put this and how to kind of even structure a book. Like it was just really foreign to me. So
it's a little bit more daunting of a assignment than pump out 1,000 words on topic XYZ.
To me, I was just kind of like, how do you even structure a book? Like, how do you even figure out what the chapters are going to be? Like, it was just, I couldn't really wrap my head around it. So when Self-Publishing School came along, it made sense to me. I was just like, this is exactly what I want to do. So
it's a pretty gutsy investment at that point, right?
Yeah, I went with the master, which is $3,000. It's not a light investment. Yeah. And to sort of preface that, we got married in February 2014. So
congratulations!
Thank you.
Past 1 year anniversary.
And so we were still paying off our wedding. So I had to have a frank conversation with my husband. It was just like, so this course has come along. I really want to do it, but it's $3,000. So my husband's awesome, and he was just like, if you really feel that this is something that you want to do, then do it. Just we'll figure it out later. And that's exactly what I did. So got into Self-Publishing School, and just I had initially had an idea for a book, and kind of had something fleshed out. And when I spoke to Chandler about it, his recommendation was to just start fresh. So I started with no list. I just sat down and went, okay.
So he didn't like your first book idea?
No, he didn't.
Oh, wow. What was it about?
It was something that I had already sort of had written that I was planning to sort of revamp. Okay. And it's published on Amazon now, and I've reworded it. But at the time, it was a guide to freelance writing on Odesk. and I've
Okay.
since reworked it. And so his reasoning behind that was, it wasn't necessarily that he didn't like the idea. He said, it's a really niche topic, which it is. And when I did the initial sort of keyword search and stuff like that on Amazon, there are not many people looking for Odesk freelance writing information on Amazon.
Very specific. Okay.
It was a very, very specific niche. And he said, look, why don't you just start fresh? You'll learn a lot more from the process if you do that. So I did. I took his guidance. He was my coach. So I said, whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do. So that's what I did. So I started fresh. I had no idea what I was going to write at that stage. So I sat down and just wrote a list of ideas and things I was dealing with at the time and problems. And one kind of stuck out more than others. And that was around, I'm not a gym person. I actually despise going to the gym, and I've had some fairly horror stories at the gym. So, but I also know that to live a good life, you still have to keep fit regardless of anything else. So I was also struggling with time. I really felt like exercising just ate into other things that I wanted to do because I didn't enjoy it. So I was looking for a solution to exercising and getting the most done in a short period of time without going to the gym, without having to spend a ton of money on exercise equipment, just something that I could do in under 30 minutes a day. So I started doing some research and went on Amazon, did sort of keyword research and that sort of stuff. And that's how I came up with my No Gym Needed book. So, I went through the whole process fairly quickly, wrote the first book in 3 weeks, just launched. The whole process was fairly quick. In Self-Publishing School, they normally give you about 4 to 5 weeks to write a book.
Which is really fast, too.
But I found that when I started sitting down and writing, actually just sitting down and writing, it came a lot faster. And, I can generally pump out 1,500 to 2,000 words an hour. I've been typing for a long time, so...
Oh my gosh. That's like, I mean, I feel like I could physically type that fast, maybe, but it's like, coming up with the ideas and everything. And so how long was the first No Gym Needed book?
30 to 35,000 words.
Oh my gosh, that's a tome.
Yeah.
In terms of Kindle books, like that's big.
So that's the first book, and I just really wanted to get through the process quickly because I wanted to start the next book. I became fairly addicted to the actual writing process. And what I found that Chandler and James taught was to mind map the book, the whole idea, to sort of really flesh it out. And I spent a couple of days doing that, and then to sort of semi-outline the book. And I found that by doing that, it made writing the book so much easier because it was literally like having a blog schedule or a blog calendar of titles and then just sitting down and writing them. So I would just basically look at my outline and go, okay, well, this chapter is about this, and sit down and just write.
It's interesting that he took you from, the super niche, like how to find some success on Odesk, to like the fitness market, which has got to be like the most broad competitive. And now you picked a good sub niche within it of saying, hey, gym free exercises and stuff. Tell me about the launch with no list, no audience. Your first time off.
So we did a pre-release, sort of, where I set up a landing page to collect email addresses. I did a free launch, so it was a pre-release list. Basically, get this book for free, sign up here. So I did that, and I got a massive 30 people sign up for that. My friends and family, basically. And so I didn't do any paid advertising or anything like that for the pre-release. So I had a week pre-launch. I didn't do anything major. Submitted to over 80 free submission sites because I was doing a free launch. Submitted to all the free Facebook groups every day. Shared on social media. So I think the first book probably did as well as it did. It hit bestseller in both the categories that it was in within sort of 3 or 4 days of launching. And I think it did so well because a lot of my friends and family were pretty invested in it. Like I was sharing daily what I was doing and saying, the book's it's climbing through the free charts, and I think it got to 35 in the free store in the entire store.
In the entire store. That's up there. You're seeing some numbers in the several thousands of downloads a day.
Yeah, I did. I think I had it free for 3.5 days, and it was over 7,000 downloads in that time. So then I switched it straight to 99 cents and left it at that for a week. And yeah, it has stayed number one in the aerobics category ever since then. So for 6 months, yeah.
Oh my gosh, really? Still 6 months later?
6 months later, it's still it's just done so well.
And now it's $2.99 now or $3.99?
$3.99. It might even be $4.99. I kind of switch. Oh. Yeah, I switch between the prices. I'm just sort of testing it at the moment to see where that price point sort of fits. So that's still, and so my first month I earned $800 just from that one book. And I was just like, this is scalable. Like it just really clicked. So then I released the male version, and it did the same. It went to number one bestseller in the men's health category. That hasn't stayed as much, and I suspect it's more to do with the fact that I'm a female writing to men.
I know. It could have been, I'm trying to think of a men's name that starts with L. Like
Larry.
Why am I blanking on Larry?
Larry, yes. Exactly. So it did really well initially, but it has definitely, it's still not doing badly. It still sells 5 to 10 copies a day, but in comparison, the No Gym Needed, the female version sells, 20 to 30 copies a day. So there's quite a big difference between the two. But and I've just built the list from there. I give away an action guide in both books that gives them access to 4 sort of different exercise programs and the 14-day challenge, and just some hacks and tips and strategies. So people sign up for that to get on the email list, and so it's just slowly been building since that time. So I'm about to hit 1,000 just in that. Between those two books, and I haven't done any marketing around either of them. They just consistently sell now. So it's just been crazy. And so from there, I just went, okay, so let's sit down and work out how I'm going to approach this. And, so I put my business hat on. I went, okay, what is my next step? How am I going to build a book business? So then I sort of started going back to what Steve Scott had done. He's very much a catalog business. So I thought, yep, that makes complete sense. And so the next book I wrote was the Side Hustle Blueprint. So I did Side Hustle Blueprint, which is book 1, which is all about, how to start a side hustle. And then the next one I did after.
Love it.
Of course you do. And that really hit a note. That is also, so between No Gym Needed and the Side Hustle Blueprint, those two are my biggest sellers across all of the books that I have. And then I also did Side Hustle Blueprint. So the first one was all about starting a side hustle, and the next one was about starting a side hustle as a freelance writer and, ghostwriting and writing books. So that also does really, really well. So I've sort of sat down and mapped out across the series that I have, I've got 30 books mapped out across the 3 series that I have to sort of just sort of build on that. So, and it's just been crazy from publishing September through to now. I'm making 3 to 4, I have no problem disclosing, sort of 3 to 4K a month in such a short period of time is just, it's just gone up every month, literally. From September.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And so I should clarify the three different series. The No Gym Needed, that was the first one, and then Side Hustle Blueprint. And so there's 2 or 3 titles in there so far.
There's 2 titles in that one.
And then Outsourced Freelancing Success.
And there's 7 in that series.
Yeah, so just kind of like following the Steve Scott model, like, hey, it's a portfolio business. I'm going to keep plugging away at these things. But it sounds, what I've found is, I have some titles that kind of continue to make sales, but over time, so you make a big splash at the launch, and then there's kind of this long, slow death. And but by continually pumping out new work, you can kind of breathe new life, and then it lifts everything up.
It does. Yep.
This is pretty cool stuff. What would you recommend for people, like when you release a new book every 2 weeks or whatever?
If you're starting to think about doing books and looking at it from a business perspective, there's things that you have to do. So there's all like book maintenance. So you don't just publish a book and then leave it alone. Like you still have to maintain it, just like you have to maintain a website. You have to do the same thing with books. So every month I have like a standing to-do item in my to-do list where I go and look at all the books. So I look at the keywords to make sure that it's still ranking in the top 5 or on the top is in the first page of a Amazon search for the keywords that I've got there. I'll also make sure that it's still sitting in the categories, and if it needs to change the categories, if you can change them. Sometimes your books are fairly like my outsourced freelancing success books. I probably won't be really able to really change the categories that much. And then just sort of optimizing your book description and just seeing where that all sort of sits. So I do that on a monthly basis. But then I also send traffic to the books too. So every month, whether it's through a blog post or I do something on Twitter or I put something up on Facebook, I'm always sending traffic to the books. And every month I run some type of promotional event around the books. So once you sort of get a catalog of books like this, so I've got like 13 books, so I can literally put one of those books on sale every month. And by doing that, it brings all the other books up as well. Like, that's what I love about Amazon. They promote a lot for you. So my Amazon account is under my maiden name, but all my books are under my married name. So Amazon hasn't made the connection that I'm one and the same person. So if I've been looking at my books and I haven't bought them, I'll get an email within 2 or 3 hours from Amazon promoting my books to me, saying, we thought you might like this. So I know that Amazon is doing that sort of stuff. And then when you start connecting, and then you've set up your author central profile and you connect all your books together, and the customers also bought, it just automatically shows, if someone's bought No Gym Needed, it'll show up some of my Side Hustle Blueprint books, it'll show up some of my OFS books. So all these things Amazon does to help you anyway, and you help yourself by making sure you send traffic to your books, at least once or twice a month. So that's kind of how I sort of maintain the books and sort of keep them up there. There are some books that will just do better than others. Like obviously anything that goes into the health, fitness and dieting niche, it doesn't take a lot. My No Gym Needed, the female version, it's just stayed there, and I haven't really done a lot to it other than tweaking keywords. I don't touch the categories because I'm like, as long as it's number one, I'm not going to move those. So I just tweak the keywords. Like I have about a list of sort of 20 keywords that I rotate it around.
So you're rotating those through the KDP backend, like in those, like the 7 keyword tags or whatever you're allowed to? So
the 7 keyword tags. So every time I update those, I update the book description to match those keywords. So it has, you don't want to, I'm not saying you keyword stuff your book description, but if you're changing your keywords in the back end, some of those keywords need to be in your book description. It helps with SEO. So where it makes sense to, I just replace a keyword with a new keyword in the book description as well. So all those, those are all little tweaks that actually make a difference.
It's interesting stuff on the keywords because I never have gotten too like in depth into it, but Nick Stevenson from a couple months ago said the same thing. Like he had this whole like fiction thriller series, and then I tweaked a handful of keywords. All of a sudden, like I doubled my exposure, doubled my revenue from it, and so now I'm like, okay, maybe I should go back and take a look at some of this stuff. The cover on this book is beautiful. Was this a 99 Designs thing, or how did you make it the cover?
Which one?
I'm on No Gym Needed.
When the first cover is done through Self-Publishing School, so her name's Ida Sovereignson. She, as part of the master's package deal, did the cover that was included in the price.
Oh, cool.
She's fantastic. And then all my covers since then, I've paid for a designer, and now I have a designer that I solely use who did all the OFS books, who is also a writer. His name's Steve Windsor. And so he does all my covers now. He's brilliant. But yeah, so no, I've never paid for a Fiverr design. All like my side hustle blueprint books were, I think the designer I found through Odesk or Elance, and I loved his work, but he's no longer doing that anymore.
Oh,
so,
that's the worst.
Yeah, it is. So that that's how I came. I also work closely with Steve where. He's a massive fiction writer, and so he's teaching me to write fiction at the moment. So I'm writing a fiction book as well. So
that's the next challenge, the next step.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's really important to find someone that's a really good designer because it does make a difference. They always say never judge a book by its cover, but forget that when you enter the Kindle store because that's exactly what happens initially.
Absolutely. And I noticed you've got I noticed you got the paperback version of these as well. This is this done through CreateSpace?
It is, yes.
Okay, and pretty nicely priced here. I'm at $16.99 list price for the for no gym needed, and I love the kind of the psychology of it, where it's like, oh, the Kindle deal is only $3.99, and so it's like, oh, and they of course do a nice job of scratching out the price and saying you're going to save 77% by going over here.
Yeah, I love Amazon. I love how they do that for you.
But I was curious, like, do you sell many paperback copies?
Yeah, it's definitely nowhere near what I sell in the Kindle version, but it's not bad. Like I would average around $500 a month in sales from paperback.
That's significant.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, exactly. That's what I think. I think I'll take it. It doesn't work, and that's no marketing at all. Like that's something I'm looking at in the future is specifically marketing the paperback versions. I mean, all the marketing and stuff that I do right now is always focused on the Kindle version, but I would love to see what would happen if I turn my attention to the paperback side of things as well, because CreateSpace, they give you, there's sort of 3 tiers in terms of how you get paid, and the middle tier is via Amazon. So if the book's connected to your Kindle version, that's sort of the mid-tier price point, and then if the book is sold through a third party, then it drops down again. But the top one where you get paid the most is directly via your own CreateSpace store. But not many people promote that. So I'm going to do some testing in the next few months just to kind of see if that makes any difference.
Okay, so you can make a better percentage if you send people direct.
Yeah, you make a much about. So if you sell it through Amazon, it depends on, I can't think what the percentage is, but it's like, so taking the $6.99 book, I make about $6 off of that if it's sold through Amazon. And if I sell it direct from CreateSpace, it's $9. So
okay.
It's quite a big sort of difference. So yeah, it's just interesting because with CreateSpace you actually can apply all HTML formatting to book description and sort of all that sort of stuff, and it's quite a nice store, and you can offer discounts and coupons which you can't do on Kindle unless you're in KDP Select, and you can do the countdown deal and stuff like that. But I love the fact that if you wanted to, you could email your list and go, hey, I'm giving the book away, the paperback, for like 50%. Here's the discount code, and away you go. So something I want to try. It's on my list.
All right, I know we're running long on time, but you brought up KDP Select, so now I've got to ask, like, do you enroll your books in there, or is it a mix and match kind of thing?
Yeah, I kind of do a mix and match. I did a test. I wanted to test it because I was initially Kindle Unlimited was pretty good, but it's definitely dropped off in terms of payment. So I was just going, is it worth it to be in KDP Select?
Right.
So No Gym Needed is in KDP Select, and Side Hustle Blueprint is out of it. So I did a comparison for the 3 months, so one in, one out. I mean, I know they're different niches, but they were both selling kind of similar amounts. And there was only maybe $100 difference in not having it. So the Side Hustle Blueprint made $100 more than the No Gym Needed one being in KDP Select. So
through other channels, through iBooks, through Barnes and Noble, through whatever.
Yeah, no. So no, I didn't. I just did it straight on Amazon. So I didn't put them.
Oh.
I didn't actively promote them across. Some of them are now, but at the time I didn't do. I just kept them on Amazon because I just really wanted to compare apples with apples. So there was no real significant difference. I didn't notice Amazon necessarily favoring the books in Kindle Unlimited versus not being in Kindle Unlimited. But I know that that's potentially changing going forward. So all my OFS books are in Kindle Unlimited because I wanted to see if that makes a difference to them because they're in more of a niche sort of market. So really you have to test it for yourself and test it for your books. But I think if you're a new author, it's a good idea to at least try it for the 90 days. I mean, you don't have to stay in it. You can come out. But I want to diversify. So I will keep putting them in for 90 days and then taking them out and then putting them in other areas for another 90 days and just switching around and just trying different things.
Well, it opens up the ability to do that free launch like you did, which catapulted you to Kindle, Kindle superstardom, Kindle success. Anyways, that's really cool. Lise, thank you so much for coming to join me to share all this wisdom. I learned some things, and so that's been good. If people want to learn more about you, learn more about your work, of course, we'll link everything up in the show notes. But anything in particular they should check out?
So as a special gift to all the Side Hustle Nation listeners, I would love to give everyone a copy of the Side Hustle Blueprint. So
perfect.
I've given Nick a link to sort of connect you guys up with that. So, just thanks so much for listening and thanks for having me.
You bet. This is outsourcedfreelancingsuccess.com/SHN thanks. Mm-hmm. outsourcedfreelancingsuccess.com/SHN thanks. So we'll link that up in the show notes as well. And at least we'll wrap it up with your number one tip for Side Hustle Nation.
For Side Hustle Nation is to just my favorite quote at the moment is "Done is better than perfect."
I like that one too.
Yeah. Filter everything through that. If you're starting anything, just remember to yourself you do not have to make anything perfect. Just get it done.
And with that, we are done with this show. So thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Did that conversation with Lise get you pumped up to write a book or what? If you're ready to dive into Kindle publishing, you're going to want to check out my Udemy course on the topic at KindleLaunchCourse.com, which is aimed at giving new nonfiction authors all the information and marketing ammunition you need to launch your book to the top of the charts. There's over 2,000 students in there, over 50 5-star reviews. It's been really well received, and I think the information in there is solid. It's what I used to launch my book last summer. It did pretty well. Use the special KindleLaunchCourse.com link for a special discount just for Side Hustle Show listeners. Beyond that, be sure to grab a free copy of the Side Hustle Blueprint, Lisa's book, at outsourcedfreelancingsuccess.com/SHN thanks. Definitely a mouthful of a URL, so I'm going to link that up in the show notes as well at sidehustlenation.com/113. And while you're there, you'll be able to download a free PDF with all the notes, highlights, and tips from this week's show. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. You're awesome. Until next time, let's go out there, make something happen, and I'll see you next week in episode 114. Hustle on.
Thanks for listening to The Side Hustle Show at www.sidehustlenation.com.